The first account, the current account, includes goods and services account, income payment account, and also in the income payment there are the interest payment, dividends and transfers, and also the transfer account. Okay, so current account has several subparts. First one, the current account transfer, which records one-off transaction and which are not easily classified elsewhere. When, for an example, is the funds that are brought by the newly migrants. So that is called current transfer account. Then we see that this current account which shows the balance of the merchandise trade account, net income account, and net current transfer with the real data in December 2014, 2016 December quarter, the current account deficit which increased to 3,853 million Australian dollar, and it was the smallest deficit since quarter 1 2014. In the current account, we have seen that there were surplus on the goods and services account, which increased to 2,124 million Australian dollars in the September quarter in 2016, and which was expected to contribute 0.2 percentage point growth in the December quarter GDP in Australia. However, a deficit was recorded in the net primary income account, which increased to $8,081 million in the December quarter of 2016. So you have some idea about the size of our current account, what are the major accounts that are held in current account. So just looking at this graph, you can see that the balance on goods and services account, which is also known as the merchandise trade and services account, is where we see the credits on goods like goods exports and debits on goods export, which gives us the net goods export or merchandise trade balance. Then we see the credit and debits in the services account or the net services account. So adding these two, we get the balance on the goods and services account. In the income account, net primary income account, the credit of or the inflow of income and outflow of income gives us the net income. And then we have the current transfer credit and current transfer debit, which gives us the net current transfer. So adding these three accounts, we get the balance on the current account. So current account has three accounts. One is balance on goods and services account, one is balance on net income account, and one is net current transfer. So all these three, adding these three, we get the balance on current account. So first one, balance on goods account, which is also known as merchandise trade account, which is the value of export minus the value of imports. So when a country, or sometimes a country might for some time import more than its exports, and then if the value of imports are greater than the value of exports, then we get the deficit in the merchandise trade account. We know what are export. Export are the goods and services that are sold to the foreign nation, which are produced domestically and sold to the foreign nation. So they are bringing money for the domestic country. Say for Australia, Australia is exporting what? The uranium, the agricultural product, and that is bringing money for the country. Imports are the foreign-made goods and services that are bought by a nation or brought into the nation, and they buying more import means they are the leakage of funds or leakage of money out of the nation. But when we buy imports, we need to convert our country's currency into a foreign country's currency to buy those goods and services. Similarly, the foreigners, when they want to buy our goods and services, they have to convert their currency into Australian dollar to buy our Australian goods and services. So, exchange rate would be the relative value of a nation currency in comparison to other nations' currency. We can see here the Australia's globally significant industries. In the top, we can see it is the education industry. It is one of the top services export in recent years, and number 3, it is bringing, it accounts for the value of number 3 export items. Other merchandise export like agricultural product, they are also important for our export industries, and also international tourism, which is bringing a large amount of foreign income for us. So we have talked about the balances on goods account and balances on services account. How about the net income and transfer account? So income, which refers to the payment of interest, dividend and royalties to the foreigners or getting from the foreigners when Australia's companies are producing overseas countries. So net income is the difference between the amount of interest, dividend and royalties that is received by a nation from overseas minus the interest, dividend and royalties that the nation pays to the overseas. So this balance is keep the balance in the income account. Then we have the transfer. Transfer referred to one-way gift and foreign aid. That is, they are not related to any productive payment. So net transfer are the differences between the transfer into a nation and transfer out of a nation. So this one, what do you think? How much do we give? According to this information, say our aid spending is roughly equal to 1 cup of coffee every week for every Australian. So in 2014, Australia's aid budget was $5.2 billion, and that means Australians spent 7 times more in takeaway food than our country gives aid in, because we are spending $37 billion in the takeaway food, but we are giving out $5.2 billion in the form of aid to the poorer nations or the nations who need our aid. So for an example, debit items in the current debit and credit items in the current account. Example, say for an example, merchandise trade account. What are the debits? or what is a debit? Domestic purchase of a Japanese car will come under the debit in the merchandise trade because we are buying a Japanese car, so we have to pay for it. So it's a deficit in the merchandise trade, whereas a credit is sale of wheat to Russia. So when Russian are buying our wheat, that would be recorded as a credit in the merchandise trade account. So merchandise trade account, it gives the record of the buying and selling of only goods and payment for the goods only. Services account, like when domestic buyers pay flight cost on imports, that is debit for Australia, whereas overseas buyers pay freight cost on our export, that would be recorded as credit. Okay, credit again when the overseas students paying us the the enrollment fees, and so that will be coming under our credit in the services account. And when an Australian student going to overseas and paying for overseas universities fees, it will be recorded as a debit in the services account. Income, domestic company pays a foreign employee the wages and salaries. This will be coming under the debit in the income account. And when the foreign companies pays a domestic employee an Australian citizen, then it will be coming under the credit account of income account. Transfer, domestic relatives send a gift card to the overseas residents. So it is the money is going out of our country. It's not coming back. It's one off, and it will be recorded under the debit account of transfer account. And when overseas, like if I get some gift, cash gift from one of my relatives from Bangladesh, then it would be recorded as a credit in the transfer account. So this figure shows the current account and its component over the years from 1959 to 2011-12. We can see that the blue line, which is our net export, which has in several years in 1970s and also in 1989 to 1993, 4, and also between like 2008 and 2012, we see there are surpluses in the net exports. Okay, net goods and services, goods export. And in the net services, we can see that in some years there are services account is in surplus. However, the net income, the green line, which says it from the very beginning, where we can find the record from September 1959, we can see that we are having greater and greater deficit in the net income account. So it is like over the last 160 years, we are having current account deficit. Australia is having current account deficit, except for some exceptional years, a few years in 1970s and so. But the major reason for this deficit is the deficit in the income account, which you can see from this figure.